Every 4 years, America runs the same experiment. Change the candidates, keep the pattern. Black women vote for progress. White women vote for control. In 2016, 52% of white women chose Donald Trump. In 2020, 55%. And in 2024, still more than half. How did the group most targeted by his misogyny become one of his strongest allies? I wanted to find out, not as a journalist, but as a white woman. This is the story of white womanhood, fear, and the illusion of protection. Since the earliest versions of American womanhood, the angel in the house, the homemaker, the moral guardian, white women have been told that safety comes from alignment. Align with your husband, your church, your flag, and in return, you'll be protected from chaos, from crime, from men who aren't yours. Historically, that protection was inseparable from whiteness itself. White women's purity was also used to justify lynching, segregation, immigration bans. The story of protecting our women has kind of always been code for protecting our hierarchy. Sociologists call this the patriarchal bargain. Philosopher Kate Mann calls it something sharper, a moral economy of misogyny. In her book Down Girl, she writes, "Misogyny's function is to police and enforce a patriarchal order by rewarding women who conform and punishing those who don't. That emotional logic, reward the obedient, shame the defiant, still shapes world politics." Act 2, 2016, White Fright. When Trump descended that golden escalator in 2015, his audience wasn't the downtrodden working class we'd heard so much about. It was people who felt their status slipping. Political scientist Christopher Parker, in the conversation in 2016, called it white fright. He argued that Trump's victory had at least as much to do with support from voters who remained unencumbered by economic anxiety as those driven by it. He wrote, "Rapid social change, which poses a threat to this truncated version of American identity, activates anxiety and anger on the part of those who lay claim to this identity. Many Trump supporters believe themselves to be losing their country. They weren't voting for change, they were voting for a rewind to a version of America where white, Christian, heterosexual men reigned and white women were safely beside them." And here's what's also crazy. Education didn't inoculate anyone. College-educated white voters, supposedly more tolerant, still leaned Republican. As Parker put it, the boundaries of American identity intersect with whiteness, patriarchy, xenophobia, and homophobia. Donald Trump sold nostalgia as safety, and white women bought it. Act 3, the moral mirror. By 2020, millions of women had marched in protest, worn pussy hats, and said never again. But then, they voted for him again. According to NBC exit polls in 2020, among white women, 43% supported Joe Biden and 55% supported President Donald Trump. That was virtually identical to 2016. Reporter Amanda Becker noted that these voters said they didn't like the president's rhetoric, his handling of the pandemic. Ultimately, they chose to stand by him. So, what happened? Enter Kate Mann's next insight, disgust. She argues that white women often act as moral enforcers within the patriarchy, the gatekeepers of goodness. Disgust is their tool. It lets obedience feel righteous. When crowds chanted, "Lock her up," about Hillary Clinton, that wasn't policy, that was purification. Psychologically, disgust separates the clean from the contaminating. It's why some white women can call Trump vulgar, but still see him as the less disgusting option, the one protecting them from feminists, immigrants, or woke ideology. They're not necessarily voting for cruelty, they're voting for order. They just refuse to see that those are the same thing. Act 4, the protector king. Nowhere is the emotional contract clearer than among Christian women. In January this year, Mother Jones interviewed psychologist Kate Gadini, who studies evangelical women. She describes what she saw at the Liberty University after the 2024 election. They felt like this was God's will. He has spared the nation by giving us Trump. Even after we've made so many mistakes, he's giving us one last chance to get it right. Gardini told Mother Jones that for these women, Trump's appeal operates on multiple planes. It's the sense of having a protector and a defender in Trump. He's going to protect us from this woke liberal elite that wants to take us down. The left is concerned with wokeness and identity politics, while Trump is concerned that you can't afford a tank of gas. He's going to protect our country from China. He's going to protect our borders. That protector identity operates on so many different levels, and it's hugely effective with these women. Here's the line that kind of sums it up. Trump said at a few campaign rallies, "I want to protect the woman." One Christian woman I interviewed said she wept when she heard that because it was so resonant with what she needed. Protection is at the heart of the contract, the emotional transaction that makes hierarchy feel holy. Gardini continues, within their gendered system, women are the soft, nurturing ones, the caretakers. Men are the strong ones, protectors and defenders. This gendered system is built into conservative Christianity, so it makes sense that they would apply that to politics and want a candidate who fits that mold. In 2016, she says, Trump projected a kind of devil-may-care masculinity they found quite attractive, whereas in 2024, he's seen more of a protective, fatherly or even grandfatherly figure. The swagger turned paternal. The misogynist became the father figure, and that made obedience feel safe again. Act 5. The paradox of the protected. Protection always needs a threat. A protector with no danger to fight loses his purpose, and so does the person that he protects. That's the paradox. Safety depends on fear, and in Trump's America, fear is infinite. Fox News fills screens with crime waves, border invasions, gender chaos. Each new threat reactivates the emotional contract. As Mother Jones reported, the younger women are getting a lot of their news from social media. What they're hearing is that the liberal left hates them. For mothers, their sense of needing protection is all around children. They need to protect their children as mothers. And they need a paternalistic figure as president to protect their children on a larger scale. And for older women, their primary concern tends to be immigration, keeping our neighborhoods safe, keeping women and girls safe from perceived physical threats, and immigrant men. In this worldview, every cultural change, from racial justice protests to trans rights, becomes a home invasion. The emotional pattern repeats. 1920s KKK promised to defend white womanhood. 1960s John Birch Society promised to defend Christianity. 2016 MAGA promised to defend real America. Act 6, 2024 and 2025. The contract renews. After Trump managed to get back in, The Guardian reported that Trump's return to power was powered once again by the loyalty of white women voters, especially those without college degrees. The piece noted that Harris narrowed down the gender gap, but not the racial one. White women broke 56-43 for Trump. Meanwhile, the Pew Research Center's 2025 demographic study found that white women, especially those who identified as born again or evangelical, remained among Trump's most reliable supporters, even as his share among white men started to decline slightly. This isn't an anomaly. This is endurance. The contract holds, and it just keeps rebranding itself. What began as family values became law and order, then anti-woke and protect the children. It's the same deal, it just has new flashy packaging. Act 7, the other half. There's an easy way to flatten this story, to call these women brainwashed or ignorant or complicit. But that misses the deeper truth. They're emotionally fluent in a system that rewards their fear. Meanwhile, black women, Latino organizers, queer activists, they keep expanding democracy from the margins. In 2020, black women's turnout in Georgia flipped the Senate. As Alternet reported, black women got the vote out in urban centers, making for the close results in Georgia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. Black women organized communities to vote. So while white women voted to preserve safety, black women voted to create safety. Act 8, the rebrand of submission. The new conservative feminism doesn't call itself submissive. It calls itself empowered. Gardini again. The new role model is Amy Coney Barrett. She's married to a man, she has tons of kids, and yet she's on the Supreme Court advocating conservative values. It's a version of having it all. She notes that many Christian women now say, I want to have the choice to work part-time or work full-time or stay home with my kids in homeschool. I want to have that option. Crazy, because we fought for heaps of years for you to have that option. Then you voted to take it away. It's so crazy. They've absorbed feminist language, choice, empowerment, all to defend patriarchal outcomes. Gadini calls it feminism infiltrating their conservative sphere, propelling them forward even as they oppose it. In other words, the contract adapts. It learns the language of liberation to preserve the logic of control. Act 9, the mirror moment. If we zoom out, Trumpism isn't just about one guy. It's a big mirror showing white women the reflection we weren't actually supposed to see. Because I'm one of them. I'm a white woman. And it's uncomfortable to admit that people who look like me, people raised on the same Disney feminism and suburban safety drills, are some of the most dependable foot soldiers in a movement built on fear. A movement that takes rights from us, that hides the Epstein files, protects rapists, and even elects one into office. It's a movement that I'm genuinely terrified by. It forces the question, what does safety mean if it always comes at someone else's expense? That's the moral reckoning hiding inside of all the data and the numbers. Breaking the contract. Maybe the contract is starting to expire. Younger women, multiracial coalitions, even some suburban voters are beginning to see safety differently. Not as walls, but more like as networks. Security not from protection, but from solidarity. But breakups are messy. Because what white women were promised wasn't money or power. It was safety. And giving that up feels like danger. If democracy dies, it won't be because one man broke it. It'll be because women kept it running. The paradox of the protected is this: the safer they feel, the smaller the rest of us become. If this story made you uncomfortable, good. It means you're paying attention. If you like stuff like this, make sure you subscribe because we do 5 videos for you in a week. And subscribing is the best way to make sure we can keep going. And we love it. Yeah, you made it to the end, so obviously this is kind of your thing. So check out my deep dive into why the right is so obsessed with trans people. Similar vibe. Bye.